The Impossible Code, the 17-year-old who cracked JN-25 and turned the tide of World War II. Prologue, The Basement of Despair. Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, Building 1, April 18, 1942, 02:30 hours. The Basement Operations Center reeked of stale sweat, anxiety, and the acrid tang of endless cigarettes. Commander Joseph Rochefort, a gaunt figure with haunted eyes, paced like a caged animal between rows of makeshift desks. Before him, America's finest cryptographic minds, men from Yale, Princeton, and Annapolis, hunched over papers strewn with endless columns of 5-digit numbers. Their shoulders slumped not from fatigue alone, but from the crushing weight of failure. For 18 brutal months, they had attacked the Japanese naval code JN-25. For 18 months, it had resisted every assault. "This is worse than Pearl Harbor," muttered Lieutenant Commander Thomas Dyer, rubbing bloodshot eyes. "At least that was over in hours. This is a slow bleed, and we can't find the wound." The numbers on the intercept sheets told a story of American despair. Since December 7th, Wake Island, fallen. Guam, fallen. The Philippines, 75,000 American and Filipino troops marching into captivity on Bataan. Shipping losses. For every Japanese vessel sunk, America lost 3. The problem sat before them in deceptively simple form. Strings like 15347, 28914, 42139, 87650. These were JN-25 code groups. Each 5-digit number corresponded to a word, phrase, or location in a 33,333 entry codebook. But before transmission, each group had another 5-digit number, a random additive, added to it from separate tables that changed every 10 to 14 days. 2 layers of encryption. Even if you miraculously guessed a code group, you couldn't be sure without cracking the additive. And with additives changing before statistical analysis could gain traction, the task seemed mathematically impossible. "What we need," Rochefort said to no one in particular, "is a miracle, or someone too dumb to know this is impossible." He had no idea how right he was. The miracle was already in the building, and he was indeed too young to understand what couldn't be done. His name was Andrew Mickey Gleason. He was 17 years old, and in 6 weeks he would do what America's entire cryptographic establishment had failed to do for 18 months. Part 1. The Fortress. Understanding JN-25's terrifying design. Architecture of a perfect code. The Imperial Japanese Navy introduced JN-25B, the version active in early 1942, on December 1, 1941, just 6 days before Pearl Harbor. Its design reflected lessons learned from earlier compromised codes. Stage 1. The codebook, the vocabulary. Size, 33,333 5-digit code groups, 00000 to 33332 in quinary notation. Organization, 00000 to 09999, administrative phrases, at dawn, proceed to. 10000 to 19999, ships and unit designations. 20000 to 29999, place names and coordinates. 30000 to 33332, tactical terms, weapons, weather. Security measure. Codebooks were printed in water-soluble ink and weighted to sink if a ship was abandoned. Stage 2. The additive tables, the mask. Purpose, to disguise the code groups so the same word never appeared as the same number twice. Mechanics, each code group had a randomly selected 5-digit additive from a separate table added to it. If the sum exceeded 100,000, only the last 5 digits were used.
Example, code for Midway 13759, random additive from table 48216, transmission 13759 plus 48216 equals 61975, transmitted as 61975. Next day, same word, 13759 plus 19523 equals 33282. Table changes. Additive books with 300 pages of random numbers were replaced every 10 to 14 days, sometimes immediately after suspected compromise. The intercept problem. American listening posts from Hawaii to Australia captured thousands of these messages daily. By April 1942, warehouses at Pearl Harbor contained over 200,000 intercepted JN-25 messages. They might as well have been ancient Sanskrit. The American effort. Genius hitting a wall. The team attacking JN-25 represented America's cryptographic elite. Agnes Meyer Driscoll, Madame X, the Navy's first great cryptoanalyst, had broken earlier Japanese codes. By 1942, even she was stumped. "The additives randomize everything," she reported. "We need a crib, a known plaintext, and they're not giving us one." Commander Joseph Rochefort, head of Station Hypo at Pearl Harbor, spoke Japanese, understood naval operations, knew time was running out. "Nimitz needs answers yesterday," he told his team. "The Japanese are planning something big. I can feel it in the traffic volume." The mathematicians, PhDs from Ivy League schools working 18-hour shifts, applying frequency analysis, probability theory, and early IBM tabulating machines to find patterns. Their conclusion, without capturing new codebooks, breakthrough might take years. Admiral Chester Nimitz visited the basement on April 10th. "Gentlemen," he said quietly, "the Japanese own the Pacific. My carriers are hiding. My submarines are blind. I need to know where they're going to hit next. If I guess wrong, we lose Hawaii. If we lose Hawaii, we lose the West Coast. Do you understand what's at stake?" Every man in the room did. The pressure was crushing. Part 2. The Outsider. Andrew Gleason's Unlikely Journey. The Prodigy from Fresno. Andrew Mickey Gleason was born November 4, 1921, in Fresno, California. His father was a botanist, his mother a Swiss immigrant. From childhood, he displayed what psychologists would later call pattern recognition genius. Age 10, solved complex jigsaw puzzles upside down, image side down. 14, could glance at a page of random numbers and identify repeated sequences. High school, graduated from Roosevelt in Yonkers at 16, bored with conventional curriculum. "The problems they gave us had answers in the back of the book," he recalled later. "What's the point?" When Pearl Harbor was attacked, Gleason was working as a clerk in New York. He watched newsreels of burning battleships, saw the lists of dead, and made a decision. "They needed people who could solve puzzles," he said. "I could solve puzzles." The lie that got him in. On December 8, 1941, Gleason walked into a Navy recruiting office with a forged birth certificate showing November 4, 1923, making him 18. He was actually 17 years and 34 days old. Recruiter: "You look young, son. You sure you're 18? "Yes, sir. I'm small for my age." Recruiter, squinting: "You ever done anything with codes?" "I like math puzzles, sir. Crosswords, ciphers." Recruiter, stamping papers: "Well, God help us. They're taking everyone." By January 1942, Seaman Apprentice Gleason was on a train to Washington, D.C., assigned to OP-20-G, not because of any known talent, but because he'd checked mathematics on his aptitude form. The basement, lowest man on the totem pole. Gleason arrived at the Nebraska Avenue complex on February 3, 1942. The contrast couldn't have been starker. The experts. Agnes Driscoll, 53 years old, 20 years of cryptanalysis experience. Joseph Roche, 42, veteran of World War I intelligence. Thomas Dyer, 30, Naval Academy, top of his class. Ivy League mathematicians with doctorates. The kid, 17 years old, still. Voice cracked when nervous. Uniform hung on him like a sack. Assigned to Message Sorting Division, the cryptographic equivalent of janitorial work. Commander Howard Engstrom's introduction was brutal. "Gleason, you see these people? They're breaking codes. You see that corner? That's your desk. You will sort intercepts by date, frequency, and origin. You will not attempt analysis. You will not speak to the cryptanalysts unless spoken to. You are a clerk. Act like one." For 10 weeks, Gleason did exactly that. 10-hour shifts, 6 days a week, sorting thousands of 5-digit groups into filing cabinets. It was mind-numbing, soul-crushing work. But Gleason had a peculiar mind. He couldn't not see patterns. Part 3. The Discovery. Seeing what everyone missed. The Midnight Insight. By mid-April, Gleason had sorted approximately 40,000 intercepts. As he worked, his mind began cataloging anomalies. Transmission headers, the unencrypted routing information, often contained Roman letters alongside Japanese kana. Traffic between Tokyo and Berlin showed a curious pattern in these headers. Certain indicator groups, 3-letter codes that told receiving stations which additive table to use, appeared more frequently than pure randomness would allow. On the night of April 22, 1942, Gleason couldn't sleep. He returned to the basement. Night watch allowed him in if he didn't bother anyone. He spread out 60 intercepts from March, all Tokyo to Berlin diplomatic traffic sent via Japanese naval channels. The eureka moment. Gleason noticed that the unencrypted letter indicators, like ABA, ACA, in Tokyo to Berlin messages used only letters A through M. Berlin to Tokyo messages used only N through Z. This is procedure, he realized. They're splitting the alphabet for directional traffic. Then the leap. What if the encrypted 3-digit indicator groups that preceded the message proper followed this same plain text pattern? The mathematical breakthrough. At 2:17 a.m., Gleason began his calculations. The hypothesis was revolutionary in its simplicity. If you know or can guess that an encrypted indicator's plaintext is, say, ANA, which uses only A through M letters for Tokyo to Berlin traffic, and you have the encrypted version, e.g. 294, then you can work backward. Convert ANA to numbers. A equals 1, N equals 14. Wait, but in this split, N would be in the other direction. Actually, for Tokyo to Berlin, A equals 1, B equals 2, up to M equals 13. So ANA might be numerically represented somehow in their system. The difference between the encrypted value and the guessed plaintext value would reveal part of the additive. Gleason worked feverishly. By 5 a.m., he had tested his method against 12 messages where he could guess the indicator plaintext from message length and routing. 73% accuracy. He had done the impossible. He'd found a way to recover additives without the codebook. The wall of resistance. The next morning, exhausted but electrified, Gleason approached Lieutenant Commander Engstrom. "Sir, I found a vulnerability in JN25, the indicator system." Engstrom didn't look up from his paperwork. "Gleason, we've been over this. You're a file clerk." "But sir, if we can recover additives from the indicators, we can start reading current traffic. I've tested it." Engstrom finally looked at him with something between pity and annoyance. Son, Agnes Driscoll has been breaking codes since you were in diapers. Joe Roche taught himself Japanese while you were learning long division. Do you honestly believe you found something they all missed? I have the calculations. Enough. Back to your filing. That's an order. For 3 agonizing weeks, Gleason refined his method in secret, working in bathroom stalls during breaks, scribbling in his notebook by flashlight after lights out. He improved his accuracy to 81%. He developed statistical validation methods. He knew he was right, but he was trapped by hierarchy, by age, by rank. His notebook entry from April 30th reads, "They see the uniform, not the mind underneath. The code doesn't care about rank. The patterns are there. Why won't they look?"
The crisis, Midway and the moment of truth. The AF mystery. By early May, radio intercepts showed Japanese fleet movements accelerating. Traffic volume increased 400%. Something massive was brewing. Rocheford's team had partially decrypted enough to know. An operation was planned for early June. The target was designated AF. Multiple carriers were involved. But what was AF? Alaska? Australia? California? Midway? Nimitz needed certainty. He got speculation. The emergency briefing, May 11, 1942. Admiral Nimitz returned to the basement. The atmosphere was tense enough to cut with a knife. Rochefort presented the scant intelligence. "Sir, we believe AF is likely Midway, based on a previous reference where Midway reported its water plant broken, and we later saw AF has water problems in a decrypt. But it's circumstantial. We can't break enough current traffic to be sure." Nimitz was grim. "Commander, if I send our 3 carriers to defend Midway and the Japanese hit Alaska instead, we lose the carriers and Alaska. If I send them to Alaska and the Japanese take Midway, they're within striking distance of Hawaii. I need certainty, not guesses." It was at this moment that Andrew Gleason, who had been delivering message packets to the briefing room, made his decision. He stepped forward. "Admiral, sir, I can help." Every officer in the room turned. Rochefort's face went pale. Gleason, dismissed. Nimitz raised a hand. "Who are you, son?" "Seaman Apprentice Andrew Gleason, sir. I work message sorting." "And what makes you think you can help, Seaman Gleason?" "The indicator system, sir. Tokyo-Berlin traffic uses split alphabet in plain text headers. If the indicator system follows the same pattern, we can recover additives by subtraction. I've tested it. I have 81% accuracy over 47 samples." Silence. Then Lieutenant Commander Thomas Dyer, the senior cryptanalyst, spoke softly. "Joe, he might have something. We've been treating indicators as random. What if they're not?" Rochefort looked from Gleason's earnest face to Nimitz's impatient one. "Sir, he's 17. He lied about his age to enlist." Nimitz didn't blink. "I don't care if he's 12. Can his method work?" Dyer was already examining Gleason's notebook. "The math is sound, sir. It's clever. Simple, but clever." Nimitz made his decision in seconds. "Test it. You have 72 hours. If it works, I want every resource applied. If it doesn't," he didn't finish. He didn't need to. The 72-hour marathon. What followed was one of the most intense cryptographic efforts in history. Team structure. Group A, traditionalists, continued current methods under Driscoll. Group B, the Gleason team, Agnes Driscoll, reluctantly, Thomas Dyer, Marshall Hall Jr., and Gleason himself. Hours 0 to 24, skepticism and testing.
Driscoll initially dismissed the method as oversimplified, but as they applied it to maze traffic, they began recovering additives, real, verifiable additives. Hour 25 to 48, the dam cracks. Using recovered additives, they strip encryption from recent messages. Fragments emerge. Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu. Attack AF airfield at dawn. Invasion force embarks from Saipan. Hour 49 to 60. Confirmation. They decrypt a message about AF's water shortage, confirming Midway as the target. Then the jackpot. An operations order detailing the entire battle plan. Carrier strike on Midway. Invasion to follow. Timing for June 4th to 5th. Hour 61 to 72. The brief is prepared. Nimitz gets it on May 14th. Japan is attacking Midway with 4 carriers, multiple battleships, and an invasion force. Date, June 4th, 1942. Based on this intelligence, Gleason's intelligence, Nimitz makes his historic gamble. He pulls all 3 Pacific carriers, Enterprise, Hornet, and the damaged Yorktown, repaired in 72 hours instead of 90 days, and positions them northeast of Midway, lying in wait. Part 5. The Victory. Midway and Beyond. June 4th, 1942. The Battle. Thanks to Gleason's breakthrough, America fought with their eyes open. 0430, Japanese planes strike Midway, expected. 0700, American carriers know Japanese carrier positions from decrypted intercepts. 1020, American dive bombers find the Japanese carriers with decks full of armed planes and fuel. 1026 to 1030, in 5 minutes, 3 Japanese carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, are burning wrecks. Later that day, the 4th carrier, Hiryu, is sunk. The result: Japanese losses: 4 fleet carriers, 1 heavy cruiser, 248 aircraft, and 3,057 men, including irreplaceable veteran pilots. American losses: 1 carrier, Enterprise, 1 destroyer, 150 aircraft, and 307 men. The balance of power in the Pacific shifted irrevocably in one morning, and it happened because a teenager noticed a pattern in letter usage. The aftermath: JN-25 falls completely. Gleason's indicator subtraction method became the foundation for a systematic attack on JN-25. By August 1942, OP-20G was reading 40% of current traffic. By October, 75%. The intelligence payoff was staggering. 1942 to 1943 impact. Submarine warfare. U.S. subs armed with decrypted convoy routes sank 1.5 million tons of Japanese shipping in 1943 alone, versus 180,000 tons in 1941. Naval battles. At Eastern Solomons, August 42, and Santa Cruz, October 42, advance warning from decrypts allowed American forces to ambush Japanese fleets. Assassination of Yamamoto. In April 1943, decrypted travel plans enabled the shoot-down of Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, architect of Pearl Harbor. The Marianas Turkey Shoot, June 1944. Japanese fleet movements were completely transparent. Resulting battle destroyed Japanese naval air power. Historian John Prados estimates the breaking of JN-25 shortened the Pacific War by at least 18 months and saved between 500,000 and 1 million Allied lives. Part 6. The Legacy: From Basement to Harvard Hall. The Secret Hero. After Midway, Gleason's contribution remained classified. The Navy wanted him. They offered him a commission and a permanent cryptographic position. But Admiral Nimitz had given an order: When this war ends, you're going to college. That's an order. In 1946, Gleason entered Yale University. His classmates knew nothing of his war work. He was just another freshman, albeit a 24-year-old freshman with mysterious maturity. Academic brilliance. Gleason's cryptographic experience shaped his mathematical approach, applied pattern recognition. His post-war achievements were extraordinary. Hilbert's fifth problem, 1952, solved one of mathematics' most famous unsolved problems concerning the structure of Lie groups. Gleason's theorem, 1957, fundamental to quantum mechanics, proving that probability measures on quantum systems have a specific form. Ramsey theorem and combinatorics made contributions to understanding order within apparent randomness, directly influenced by his code-breaking work. Mathematics education held the Hollis Chair of Mathematics at Harvard, the oldest endowed scientific chair in America, revolutionized how mathematics was taught. The truth emerges. Gleason seldom spoke of the war. When the NSA began declassifying World War II cryptologic records in the 1990s, researchers discovered the full story. Interviews with surviving OP-20G members revealed the truth. The teenager in the basement had indeed provided the crucial breakthrough. In a 1998 interview, Gleason was characteristically modest. "I was young and lucky. The real work was done by Driscoll, Rochefort, and Dyer. They'd built the foundation. I just happened to notice something at the right time." Thomas Dyer, in his memoirs, was more direct. "Gleason saved us.